Alright, let's go to the next episode, to Mesa City in, I think it's Colorado, probably. I don't know.
Wait,
America.
no.
So we're leaving Wales behind.
It can't be Colorado. The X is way too south.
That wasn't even Wales anyway, so who gives a shit?
Well, Jova,
The game says it was, so...
the
The
thing
game's
is,
full of it.
the thing is,
going
that
down to South Park?
the thing is, Java is that Thieves in Time shows a new, more map of a world. It looks completely different in geography-wise. So this is like some Sonic level of geography and consistency.
Hey, maybe we...
Hold on, look at the pun, the dog father, huh? Get it?
Anyway, as I was saying, maybe the world we were going along before that game, we only saw one side of it.
Beware
Wow.
who you bully in high school.
If officials at Sonic Team can get away with saying that, I can't say.
Oh, so pretty much he got back at his bullies and then some.
But as we will see later, let's just say that he skipped leg day.
I can
I
already
thought you were
see
gonna say.
that.
I thought you were gonna say he became the bully himself.
Well, technically yes, because he's a gangster leader, and he became became essentially a tyrant of this small town of Mesa
Gun-toting
City.
maniac activist.
Good
Like
job he was.
Cooper in Sunset,
Oh, it's gonna be a
Snake
western.
Eyes.
I thought it was gonna be Sunset 2 Dice, and I'm like, wait, what?
You know, if there's one thing, if there's one cliche that anyone outside of America loves to do with America, it's always go for the western settings. That or New York City.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why that is.
Well, I guess it might fit on a geographical level. I don't know. It's more
I see,
appealing to some.
Well,
So I see Mesa City.
Tio.
So I see Mesa City has been reduced to straight line.
Tio, when it comes
More-
to America, we have loads of geographies for pretty much
Well, I
any
can
season.
imagine that. It's just that maybe it was more appeasing than others. I don't know.
Well, from what I understand, a lot of Europeans seems to love westerns in America.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually,
Okay,
Did I
hold
actually
on.
want to watch
Time to explain the move that I learned, which will be pivotal for pretty much the entire rest of the franchise. The one taught by Yoichi Cooper, the spiral jump. Now I can perfectly balance over these tiny objects, like that, to move from platform to platform. This is performed again by jumping and pressing the circle button. I mean, redundancy much, but it will basically allow him to traverse even passages that may look, potentially unjumpable because we're like too far. And this will also extend to potentially, spiky objects. Because, for some later game, potentially Sly will be able to do the spiral jump on stuff like ninja stars, even though they should actually, put a hole in his feet.
So,
Yeah, Trevor, what you said earlier
Huh?
actually has me wondering, what European reception was like towards the the lesser received of Western movies.
which one?
I actually don't know which specific you might refer to.
Well, the more infamous ones that come to mind are Cowboys and Aliens and The Lone Ranger.
Isn't it more
Oh.
sci-fi than traditional Western, though?
Well, okay,
I mean that's part of the title.
with Cowboys and Aliens,
It's like saying that John Carter is a Western movie.
I think Cowboys and Aliens was more popular over in places like Russia or the Ukraine area. In Lone Ranger, yeah, that definitely had more of a following in Europe than it did in America, sadly.
Weird.
I know, right?
Was the original franchise, famous in Europe?
Well, it was pretty much famous everywhere from what I can recall, so I'm not entirely surprised.
I mean, we definitely used the Lone Ranger. Okay, I'm pretty sure the Lone Ranger theme was made before the Lone Ranger.
Wow,
So
yeah, it
we
was.
play that theme's used in pretty much half of all adverts here in Britain.
Yeah, I know, including Clockwork Orange.
Anyway, new minor gaming introduce laser traps that are on the ground. The game is actually relatively generous with this compared to the other rest of the Dickishness. You can actually get scot-free once if you get caught, but if they turn orange or red, at that point they become an insta-kill. So basically you need to be careful.
I guess the bad guys made it that way in case one of their mooks accidentally stepped on it.
Yeah.
That makes
Probably.
sense story-wise.
I mean, it's a good job these ones are yellow all the time.
Unless you step on
Well,
them.
yeah, exactly. Step on them once and then they become orange/red.
So,
There we go.
Teal, if I
Yes.
don't think we've ever gone over it. How do you feel about the soundtrack of this series, this game in particular?
Well, I did mention the composer in the first part, but
Oh, I
the
get
composers. The soundtrack of this game is fine, not too spectacular, but fine. But starting with the second one, you can definitely tell that Peter Connell actually gave it much more personality. I did mention, similar to Gears of War 2, the series started getting a leitmotif with the second game. Then, different remixes of it, more themed compositions and type of instruments used for the locations. For example, we have like a Canadian setting, so we have instruments that are according to that, a similar thought process for other locations in general, which will be reflected for the rest of the series. Again, Peter Cullen actually came back for Peace in Time, and I do believe that soundtrack is the best of the franchise, especially because it had first of all, the locations are a bit more interesting to compose for, but not just that. If I recall correctly, they gave him an actual orchestra for that. Instead of having to, just use the synth. So basically it allowed him to, perform better and having better quality instruments for it.
But, of
Oh, shit.
course. So, did you know that Sly Cooper was actually a part of a crossover series known as the PlayStation Move Heroes game?
Yeah, this was before PlayStation Stars Battle Royale. But it was when Sony was trying to promote the PlayStation Move. So they did, let's have a platformer of sorts, more of a party platformer game that involves the trinity of the PS2. Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and two members of the Sly Cooper gang, because, they couldn't fit all three of them, so Murray had to be left behind, poor bastard.
Ouch. In regards to the spin-offs, it may technically not count as a spin-off, but there is a game known as Bentley's Hack Pack. Why does it technically not count as a spin-off? Because it's a collection of the various hacking mini-games found in the main campaign. That said, it was
Yeah.
released as its own game for the PS3, PlayStation Vita, iOS, and Android devices.
I actually don't have it. The Sly Trilogy actually comes back with 4 mini games that are more in time for supporting the PlayStation Move. Hold on. It sounds better when it actually performs. The ideal is is to drop the hat and make it explode, as a decoy or anything. But it's not really special. I will actually demonstrate it.
The problem I recall was that the blast radius wasn't as great as you would think, an
Nope,
exploding hat would be.
it's not even like a firecracker. It's even worse. It's like a fart. It's like, look at it. Ready?
Yes, and...
It's a fart.
Jesus,
Like-
not even a proper flame texture for the explosion, just smoke.
It's not even really, ideal for the enemies, because again, they all die in one hit, so you might as well just get close in person and whack them with their cane.
I swear, in games, there's always this one power-up that you have to wonder, what were they thinking? It doesn't have any use whatsoever. Like, it would only make sense as a joke item, only it's not supposed to be a joke.
There we go. There we reached Mesa City. Boy, it has seen better days, definitely.
I'll say.
Certainly isn't shy. Okay, so we know he's here
Oh
somewhere.
boy, a
How are we supposed to
casino.
find him?
Mm-hmm.
Mesa City is a big place.
Typical of the West.
seems only
even
reasonable
though
to assume
even
that
though
he
it
chose to
looks
live
like
in
it's
a
been
giant
cut
fire
in
hydrant.
thirds.
Okay, this is also a good point to talk about the quote-unquote rules of this world works in and how
I'm sure I'll think of
mostly
something.
inconsistent for the sake of comedy are. Because, well, okay, by being a love letter to stuff like old Tex Avery and Looney Tunes cartoons, they go with the basic idea of the fact that this world is inhabited by anthropomorphic animals, but it still follows the rule of a world similar to ours. So historical events happen, the nations are the same. The problem is that when you start trying to think a bit too much about it, things inevitably don't add up. And the problem with this is one particular series that, for that kind of thing, sort of takes itself a bit too seriously. It's a bit hard to convey it. But later on, we will have for our games, we will have references to real life events, like say the American Civil War, and other potential historical characters, which will really make you think, how would they fit with the fact that, they were anthropomorphic animals. I mean, Zootopia really was a game changer by actually bothering to put a solid world building, with its own universe,
Oh,
and actually,
oh.
Going somewhere from that. Yes, with
For a second there, I thought we took out money bags.
no, dude. Thankfully, no.
It's funny you mention that to you because Zootopia did the profound thing of actually making the predators not the main bad guys, which is, normally what a lot of these anthropomorphic animal movies kind of do often, is make the carnivore the bad guy.
Don't get me wrong, it's not really a game breaker for this kind of thing. It's just that it can make things a bit more confusing on the long run. Potentially. But again, it's one of those things that it's a problem only if it's for you, basically.
Okay.
But you can easily overlook. Sorry, go on.
I think I can explain this a bit well. You know the problem with Chicken Little and how they obviously thought of the jokes before thinking about how it would work in animal society? That's kind of like what's the issue here, only to a lesser extent, because for the most part the jokes do still work, it's just the more serious stuff that doesn't really work when you think about it. And that wouldn't be a problem if the games did not get to a point where they do expect you to take these things relatively seriously.
Not to mention...
Oh, yeah, let's try it. Give me a second.
No.
No.
Wow.
Seriously.
Again, I have to ask, what were they thinking with this power-up?
It was nothing, good sir. Please don't look up.
Maybe it's to get them looking around instead of looking up.
It was just a cardboard box.
Also, Jova, it's exactly because of what Teo was saying that they did that. Because, because of the way anthropomorphic fiction typically portrays predators as the bad guys. That was exactly Zootopia portrayed that as a stereotype, a bad stereotype, exactly as a little, jab at that.
Like, Judy is stereotyping Nick throughout the entire movie, pretty much.
Without even realizing.
Yeah, like, it's all microaggression. She doesn't even know, yeah.
Anyway, but like I said, it's really a problem only if you want it to be. Personally, it's a thing that could have potentially been fixed, but I can live with that. A bit less so is the morality. Now, this too has been something that the fan base has discussed over the years, and it's not like it's really split. It's not even broken base material, but it might be again another thing if you potentially look into it, specifically the morality that the Cooper gang has, because this is a series where you have to sell the fact that a thief, a band of thieves, is not only the protagonist, but the good guys that have to solve the problems. This is easily doable by having certain rules about it, by saying that like we were saying in the beginning, they steal only from our thieves. They do it for justice. But here's the thing, that is not really consistent through the series, because we see multiple times the fact that Sly and the others still do perform regular steals potentially from civilians and other people that do not really deserve it. But there's also the fact that usually this type of character details is detailed as a critique towards society, the fact that justice is incompetent, so a potential criminal like a thief can actually act as the hero of the situation, and solve the problem that the corrupted world is written. And they try to do this kind of message in the second game, but it's mostly brushed over it. At the end of the day, Carmelita Fox is still actually a competent, good cop without corruption and everything. And there are no indications, aside from the fact that the world is chock full of these, minor crime lords all over the place, which just happen to, steal from. And then there's also the fact that Sly and the others have no problem potentially killing, other people. This is not a super common thing. It only usually happens to the final bosses. For the mooks is something that is more like hand-waved. Sometimes they're just beat up in comedically cartoon fashion, but there are situations where you actively do kill them. Like in the third game, you actually have to feed a crocodile at the actual mooks, so they get eaten alive. So there is that.
And if you look to your right, you will see the corpse of Rex Crater from Pluto Nash lying around somewhere.
Yeah. Turns out that casino plan didn't go so well after all.
But again, these two is a thing that might be a problem only if you want it to be. I do believe.
How did the corpse of the casino get from the moon to here?
It's the future where humans died out, but animals now rule the earth.
No, sorry, Java. This is a world where anthropomorphic animal ruled from the beginning.
Tio, that's what they want you to think.
Of course, it's a conspiracy.
Always has been, son.
Everything.
Damn it. But no, honestly, for me, it's mostly fine, especially because the series doesn't. It's a bit weird. Because for the most part, the series doesn't dwell too much on the subject matter. There is the fact that Sly, by his own nature of a character, Sly himself maintains his constant eat-eating grin towards all situations. But with later games, he starts mellowing out, showing, more other emotions that are not just, contempt. Hold on. There you go. This is actually more useful because it actually speeds up your everything, including you. It means that it's more easy to perform stakeouts or potentially, backtrack for an entire level to search bottles that have been scattered around. There you go, like this.
It's like, just how many of those paper mask things do you have?
Enough. Hey, Sly.
Always convenient.
It's like, what about your ancestor, Hansi Cooper? Was he a great thief too?
Because he always has one, like every time, like he.
A true gentleman thief actually always have one, at his disposal.
Oh, I am sure. Does he refill every time he finishes a level?
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bentley has to print them in the spare time, poor bastard.
Oh boy, Bentley. Oh boy, poor Bentley.
To be fair, though, but plot-wise, he will be just like Pedro and I mentioned, be like Otacon and have the worst shit on him. But gameplay-wise, things will get better for him starting with the next game.
Hey,
Also,
and
that
then
was just
there's
a
what
graph.
happens to him story-wise in Sly 2, though.
Not
Yeah.
just that, but yeah, there you go. We just saw a minor graphical glitch from these remasters earlier, though, where the floor disappeared into a void halfway.
So basically, this is like a post-apocalyptic Las Vegas that's still, of course, the casinos are still in operation, even in
More
an
like they're
apocalypse.
only operated by, a Muggshot's gang. Anyway, time to get one of the few levels where Mary is playable, actually. And let's just get to it.
Oh boy, get ready, ladies and gentlemen. We're going
Time for a
to
race.
the dog
Hot
tracks.
dog stand for a quick snack, and the next thing you know, I'm getting challenged to a race by these gangster dogs.
Is there a key in it for the winner?
Yeah, 3 times around the track for a key.
How nice that this king pretty much, gambles away the keys to their
That's
boss's
that's the thing.
location.
We're confident to win because this CTR, this is not. This is a very painful racing minigame.
Oh boy. Tia, why don't you tell our audience about the wonderful controls Rafa
The controls
Cortex?
are so slippery.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's why I had to fit in a Rafa Cortex gag there, because by God, this makes the racing levels in Rafa Cortex almost seem competent by comparison.
Like, I get it. It was, early year of the PS2. You're testing everything. And to be fair, later games will have better, driving controls. They will not really have this kind of racing section. They will be replaced by RC cars. But still, the controls will be better. It's just, again, early installment weirdness performed here. It's just meant you need to perfect this shit because the AI is very competent here.
Like,
in how they handle.
I get sort of the mentality behind it, but would it have hurt to have just gone with traditional racing controls as opposed to ice skating?
No. The racing
wheels?
controls are there. It's just the way the actual response is with, there you go, having to take a turn or actually jumping or bouncing all over the place.
That's
like
sort of
this,
my point, though. Why not just go for the more traditional sense of racing as opposed to having to do, well, what would probably be more conceivable with an RC car, honestly.
Also, this is one of those cases, like I just mentioned, this is one of those cases where, you need to perfect this shit. So if by the end of the first lap, you're not at least in third position, you basically have lost.
And
you
God
might as well
forbid,
just restart. I'm just showcasing an example here.
and God forbid you accidentally get the glitch that tripped me up on this race once.
I actually haven't got that, thankfully.
I got hooked on a corner and had to restart because the car was literally stuck there.
Also, there are some posters with foreshadowing for the next couple of hub levels.
Very
That's
nice.
Nice.
Aw.
Nice.
Ah!
Get back in there and bang them back. We need that key.
Don't say it like that. Back of the
There we
back.
go.
Way to go, Murray.
Way to go, Murray.
Also,
Yeah, I
get
don't
it.
know what it's like in your countries, but round here in Britain, banging is another term for.
We know. Oh, trust me, we
It
use it for
actually
that
is.
too.
Yeah, use it for that too. Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll admit, I kind of prefer Murray's gameplay in the sequels.
But even in general, like I said, the gameplay for everything gets retooled to be better.
Well, I mean, Murray especially because,
yeah, it's kind of expected.
Well, you will see the difference for yourself. Here's the other type of gameplay that Murray has.
Okay. so
An
what do I
escort
do?
mission where Sly has to use a turret section to clear obstacles. This is actually more bearable, but you still need to pay attention.
It's a bit bonkers, though. Of all the people, it should be
Hold
Murray.
on, I will showcase it a bit. Also, by the way, be careful, friendly fire is turned on.
Yeah, so if you hit Murray, don't do that.
Well, I mean, if you hate Murray, then this could be some form of
There we
catharsis,
go.
even though it will cost you your life.
Don't you
I mean,
just
if it's
love-
optional, just switch it off.
Yeah,
don't
there you
just
go.
love
Murray's
friendly
dead.
fire?
There you go. Murray's dead now if you hit him.
Also, Debs, how do you think European and Latino people feel about Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky?
Eh.
What do people hate some characters in Castle?
No.
The name, remember, La Puta.
La Puta, which can be interpreted as the whore.
Yeah. I've seen films like
That's an
Scarface.
unusual
that-
thing to be, right?
Well, Miyazaki himself has actually apologized, and he himself, I had no idea, he said, basically.
Why?
Well, why would he? You know?
Yeah.
Because the word La Puta in English and in Japanese means nothing, you know?
It was just a fancy term.
You know?
So why did he use La Puta, I wonder?
So,
It was
Again-
literally just a random name he came up with on the fly. Like, it's literally as innocent as that.
Wow.
Maybe he thought like, oh,
Maybe-
this sounds
maybe he
interesting. I'll use
saw-
that. Oh,
Oh yeah,
wait.
I got a theory. Maybe before he came up with the title, he saw Scarface the night before. 18
The game-
Scarface.
The game also gives you a bit of like minor traps, like having barrels potentially show up, and if you hit them when Murray is too close, they will actually damage him. But again, this is actually fair enough, more straightforward. Your turret doesn't even have like an overheat option, so you can easily potentially just shoot away.
I will say, there's a bit of early installment weirdness because in later games, Murray would kind of be considered the tough guy of the group.
Yeah,
so...
here it's just more, like I myself mentioned, the load. But like I said, in general, the behavior and the actual toughness of Murray will be actually start showing up from the second game onward. But you will probably like it better, Blives, because he starts talking like a wrestler. So look forward.
Which wrestler specifically?
I cannot tell you that. You will have to judge for yourself when the time comes.
Well, Dwebs, let me put it this way. Kind of, I think the most similar one I can point to is the Big Show, basically.
Okay, so...
Anyway, to the next part where we actually confront Muggshot. See ya.
See ya.